Hi everybody, my name's Paul and I'm a rug addict. This presentation is to warn you about the dangers of getting involved in rugs. You could become an addict like me, and this is about what it might do to your life. Now, most people have done rugs when they were young, probably in a shop like this, like where I bought my first one, but I got hooked on them quite late in life. I bought the rug on the right from Bill Deadman in Gwydir Street, and I had no idea what it was or where it had come from. So I felt the need for more information, and so I went onto the internet and I did a lot of Googling, and I discovered a lot of weird subcultures on the internet full of people who were talking about rugs. And once you get into rugs and looking at them en masse, you find that they're everywhere. And so it wasn't long before I started buying rugs on the street level in Cambridge, places like the Trumpington car boot sale and the Milton Road tip. And I discovered that of all the thousands of rugs, the ones that I liked best were the ones from Khorasan. That's the border region between Iran and Afghanistan. So I bought a load of these off eBay, mainly from a lady called God is Almighty. And although the rugs were cheap, mainly because they were dirty and had holes in, the books to find out about them were really expensive. So I spent a lot of money on buying textbooks. And I became deeply addicted to the rugs of the Baluchis. I'm into design, and I found that although Baluchi rugs look simple, they're actually really quite subtle. The top four are the same rug, but in different colour ways. And the one at the bottom left is a view of Hamburg Harbour by the guys from the same culture. Now, if you're into one kind of rug, you can often dabble in others. And I started experimenting with modernist rugs. Discovered the interesting story of Gunter Stolzel at the Bauhaus. That's her rug on the right, the pink one. Here she is with some of the guys from her workplace. Gunter Stolzel taught Annie Albers how to weave, of course. The house became full of rugs, and I realized I needed help, so I had to consult a psychiatrist who said that what I needed to do is to rid myself of the compulsion to own rug. Now, he knew about this because he'd been an addict himself, and he said you need to get out more, get out of the house, and learn to appreciate the deeper things in life, like how are rugs made. So I got out of the house, and my wife and I like to go on holiday to the north of England, and the trouble with that is I kept seeing things like sheep and mills that had really interesting looms in them. And I discovered the Farfield Mill Craft Centre in Sedbergh, where people were sitting at these things and actually making their own rugs. And I thought this was a wonderful thing. So when I got home, I had to buy a loom I got from a nice lady in Peterborough. And I discovered that actually even setting up a loom is quite complicated. There's all kinds of bits of kit you need in the bottom left there. I need to buy yet more books in order to teach myself how to do this, how to string the thing up, and how to actually start getting weaving. So once I started weaving rugs, I discovered that there were other subcultures. All these old boomers, hippies that made their own rugs, and there's like the proggies who do rag rugs, and there's the hookers who do hook rugs, and then there's the kind of rear makers, the Scandinavians, who make them just like they did 1,000 years ago when they were attacking us. And so what you discover when you start weaving is that actually yarn is fantastically expensive. So rather like in Breaking Bad, you have to kind of make your own. And so I met Joan the Sheep here, discovered all about the different stages you need to go through to make wool from the back of a sheep to something you can use on a loom. Then you need to dye it, and here's another world. And on the top there you can see the woad plants at Madingley Hall there. All kinds of stuff you need to know about dyeing, but the worst thing is the smell when you start dyeing. So I had to actually leave the kitchen after a while and build myself a shed in the garden to be able to do this particular part of the process. So from being a rug addict, I just became a yarn addict. And because I was mending a load of rugs by now, I discovered that every new rug required a different set of yarns of different weights, different twists and so on. Particularly antique rugs is really difficult. And so here we have the den of a yarn addict. So I got out a bit more, and I met a couple of fellow addicts at the car boot sale. They were also dealers in a small way, so they had better rugs than me. They like to buy them cheap and sell them dear, and the difference between that is essentially mending the holes. So I found myself a role in the local rug market as a fixer, and I then went into dealing a little bit on the side myself. Discovered a load of things about rugs, but the main thing I discovered was that I really don't like really upmarket nice Persian rugs. I like stuff right at the bottom of the market. So I've got some rugs coming up I'll show you which are under the £50 mark, which are really interesting to illustrate what I mean here. So here's the first one. It's a French Aubusson rug from about 1860. Really interesting the way the colours have faded. On the left is the front of it, which has been exposed to the sun. On the right is the back that hasn't. And you can see complicated ways in which the colours have faded. Really challenging restoration job here because you just can't get the wool of the right type in this century. Here's a second rug. This is a heavy carpet that was rescued on its way to landfill recently. Couldn't work out what the patterns were until we realized that the one in the middle looked uncannily like the circulation of the blood. And then we had a look at the rest of the rug, discovered that it was full of medical imagery. We think this is a rug that was made for a doctor, probably a medical library. Here's the most interesting rug I ever bought. I can't tell you too much about it because I've only got a few seconds, but basically I got it very cheap, and it's of no value at all except to Christians of northern Iraq. It's a Mongolian Buddhist mandala surrounded by Assyrian Christian crosses. I'm writing a book about this one. Anyway, when rugs get right at the bottom end of their life, there's nothing you can do with them, can't really restore them, so you need to make them into stuff. So I make bags and cushion covers and stuff for iPads and things and sell it to hippies on Etsy, and that's a fun thing to do.